The entrance to the mall was blocked off. They turned us around and pretty much kept us a safe distance. They were already evacuating people out of the mall. We actually saw some people that had been evacuated out of the mall, that had been pushed out of the parking lot area.
In the United States, 17 states and the District of Columbia have legalized same-sex marriage, but 29 states have banned it.
Hundreds of thousands of people lined the streets here in Brooklyn to see the West Indian Day Parade. Now they're here to celebrate Caribbean culture, but the real star of the parade are their costumes.
Maybe we can go to the bus station first.
Patricia Moon works as a New York public defender during the day, but this weekend she is a team leader working to defend the homeless from the elements. Moon and her team are volunteers of the 6th annual Don't Walk By outreach. Local nonprofit organizations like the Bowery Mission enlist volunteers like Patricia and her crew to help get the homeless off the streets. Their approach is as direct as the campaign's mission statement.
It's really about being able to talk to people and see what they need and what they're looking for, and if they want shelter, or if they want food, or if they want clothing.
But if there's something,
The team starts the day with training and orientation at a church. Then they hit the streets, stopping by a bus station.
It's through the New York Rescue Mission and the Bowery Mission. So it's a church on 120th Street, and people can go and just have a meal. And then
Team members talk to several people, inviting a number of them back to the church. 6 of them accepted.
Now, once someone accepts an invitation from the street canvassing team, they're brought back here to the host church where they are fed a hot meal and also given some basic medical attention.
That includes basic dental and eye care, also from volunteers, like Jose Chen, an optometrist who offered his services here after having done similar outreaches overseas.
We have gone to Peru to help the people there with eye exams, people who can't afford it. So we wanted to do something closer to home.
Across the country, in a winter that's brought record cold to some areas, homeless organizations have intensified their outreach. In Philadelphia, homeless shelters asked the public to help find people living on the street. Back here in New York, while everyone here got a hot meal,
over at the resource table, we will be able to give you a bed for the night. We do not want anybody going back out onto the street.
not all of those who came to eat stayed off the streets for the night. But for Moon and her team, it was a success for a personal goal.
This is a great way to show love to people, and you know, that sounds kind of cliched, but it's very much like, I'm here for you, and talk to me and let me see, you know, what we can do for you.
Over the past month, these volunteers helped feed close to 600 homeless people in New York and offered them all a chance to get off the streets and out of the cold, at least for a while. Juan Carlos Molina, Al Jazeera, New York. For Lou Reed, life was expressed through music. His band, the Velvet Underground, set the tone for rock and the punk music movement in the 1960s and early 70s.
For a lot of people who like a lot of indie rock, punk music, certain underground kind of music, you know, Lou was as important as any of the Beatles.
Back in the 1960s, Lou Reed and other iconic musical figures called this place home at one time or another, and they used what they saw in the hallways of this hotel as musical inspiration. Fans dropped off flowers in front of the Chelsea to pay tribute to Reed while remembering what his music meant to them.
The Velvet Underground were, you know, years ahead of their time. You know, Lou Reed, you know, he's sort of godfather of punk rock, really.
When I was in high school, he was my musical taste. So, I mean, growing up in a small town in Wyoming and listening to that kind of music, and it was just so bizarre and different than from, say, all the country western that I listened to.
Reed and the Velvet Underground mixed music with art, collaborating with Andy Warhol, but as influential as it was, their first album sold few copies.
The classic quote about the Velvet Underground, which is worth repeating, is that only, you know, 30,000 or so people bought Velvet Underground records, but every one of those people went on to start a rock band. So much of what Lou did with the Velvet Underground just kind of presaged punk and everything that became called alternative rock later in the 80s and 90s.
She says, hey babe, take a walk on the wild side.
Reed had greater success as a solo artist after the Velvet Underground broke up in the mid-70s.
He never stopped making music. He never stopped changing. He did have some commercial success with Transformer, which was an album produced by David Bowie. It had his kind of one big solo hit, Walk on the Wild Side.
Reed made no secret of his problems with drugs and alcohol. He underwent a liver transplant earlier this year. The Velvet Underground was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. More recently, Lou Reed collaborated with artists like Metallica, and just last year, he toured with his new band, Metal Machine Trio. He also contributed vocals to Metric's 2012 album, Synthetica.
When I'm closing in on death.
But it will be his time with the Velvet Underground, shaping the future of rock music that most fans will remember when they think of Lou Reed.
You can't help me, not you guys.
Juan Carlos Molina, Al Jazeera, New York.